What's up everyone, Alex here. As a fan of many turn-based JRPGs, many of which I've talked about on this channel, I'm always on the lookout for ways to help other turn-based fans acclimate themselves to action RPG gameplay. I want to help new Star Ocean players, as well as fans of turn-based RPGs, acclimate to the second story arc's combat system. My goal for this video is to provide you with foundational knowledge that will give you the confidence to build upon it so that you can fully enjoy its combat system just as much as I have. To help you on your journey, I've chapter marked the entire video, so you can jump around to whatever topic you'd like to see and replay them however many times you like. Ready? Let's begin. The very first thing we'll need to decide is who our chosen protagonist will be. While the game does allow you to change characters you control during combat, the protagonist will determine which characters can be recruited and what events will play out, as there are exclusive moments for each character. For beginners, I highly recommend starting out with Claude C. Kenny. Claude is able to string combos easily just by repeatedly pressing the attack button, allowing you to pummel your opponents with quick hits with very little delay. While this means that the first few hours will be a bit button mashy, his close-range fighting style will encourage you to take advantage of the game's perfect dodge functionality, which is crucial to master for later encounters. That said, if you're the kind of person that's a bit reluctant in being in the front lines, then you might want to consider Reyna Lanford. Reyna cannot string combos as fast as Claude, so her most useful abilities have everything to do with her magic. And she's a pretty good healer and packs a pretty mean punch too. Her best ability starting out is called Crush, which drops a metal ball on top of a group of enemies, which damages their HP and break meters. We'll go over break shortly. Many critics of action RPGs say that because of the nature of its combat, strategies are practically impossible to implement. With the second story arc's new features, I'd argue that you now have more control over battle situations than even in the original game. Simply put, the goal of every battle, apart from the obvious win condition, is to control the flow of combat to make it more manageable to you. This is a very different approach when compared to other action games, where brute force and overwhelming tactics often win the day. And while you can certainly mow down enemies early on using these techniques, utilizing these early moments to learn how each character plays is important to help you understand what skills do and how you can utilize them to manipulate your enemies. The simplest way to manipulate enemies in the second story arc, and one whose effects are important throughout the game, is through the brand new break system. Every single enemy in the second story arc has a break meter, designated by shield icons that sit atop their HP. Every character has abilities that can either damage their opponent's health, their break meter, or both. By depleting an enemy's break meter, you'll be able to stun them momentarily, allowing you a moment's respite from said enemy's barrage of attacks. This gets a tiny bit more complex when enemy leaders are introduced. Because of their beefy break meters, being able to deplete these will not only break said leader and stun them, but this will also cause all of the other enemies on the field to break as well. This is tricky, however, because while common sense dictates to focus your damage on the leader, the amount of break damage you'll need to inflict may take such a long time that it has a very high potential to expose your party members to attacks from the other enemies on the field, which can compound really quickly and can make restoring their health very problematic. In both situations, one really good strategy is to utilize your ranged attacker's area of effect attacks to hit multiple enemies. Reyna's Crush ability, as mentioned earlier, can damage enemies surrounding her target, which makes it easy to just spam this whenever you see a clump of bad guys grouping together. This is just one example of how to deal with this situation using the tools given, so make sure you learn how all of your characters play. While the second story arc is really good at giving you all the information you need to survive, I do have to advise against trying to learn the game's perfect dodge timing without a second party member in tow. The reason for this is that trying to master perfect dodging early on does mean that whenever you miss the timing window and get hit during your recovery, the game will consider it a break against you, leaving you stunned for a good period of time. This also means that the enemy can retaliate quickly while you're unable to move, which then tosses you to a game over screen upon your death, which can be a bit frustrating. Thankfully, the second story R allows you to retry battles endlessly, so there's no real negative to dying in combat. That said, by having a second party member available, you can die as much as you want, but you're still able to revive yourself using items thanks to the other party member present. That said, I want to stress that learning how to perfect dodge is extremely beneficial, as it not only restores 25% of your character's max MP, but it also depletes one whole shield on the enemy's break meter. Imagine doing that on an enemy leader that's got 4 to 5 shields. You'd deplete their break meter in no time. Apart from the break and perfect dodge mechanics, the second story R has 2 AI controls that you'll want to play around with, which are called strategies and AI targeting. Strategies are behaviors that you'll need to set on a per character basis, and the options available will differ depending on the character. For example, since Reina is a healer, the strategy Focus on Healing Allies will be available to her, which literally will make her just focus on healing and not anything else. Conversely, Claude has the strategy Protect Your Allies, that will ensure that he targets enemies that are hunting down other party members. Strategies can be altered in the middle of battle, so you can adapt your AI to whatever is happening. AI targeting, which sits atop these strategies, allows further control with how the party's AI targets enemies. There are 4 options available for this. I'll let you handle it, will allow the AI to choose whichever enemy they should target on their own. Spread out your attacks ensures that the AI will damage different opponents and not focus too much on one specific enemy. Focus your attacks ensures that the AI will only target the enemy that you're currently attacking. And Prevent Enemy Spells is a useful command that has the AI paying attention to casters on the field and targeting them should they attempt to cast their devastating spells. Much like strategies, AI targeting can be altered in the middle of combat, though I should stress that this applies to the entire party, while strategies apply to each party member individually. Another useful new feature you'll be introduced to is the bonus gauge, which is tied to formation. Whenever you break an enemy, deal critical damage, or defeat enemies, spheres will appear and build up the bonus gauge on the lower right corner. Depending on your selected formation, hitting certain percentages will activate powerful passives that can aid you during combat. For example, the default linear motion formation will trigger a 25% attack boost when the bonus gauge reaches 50, a 25% defense boost when it reaches 100, and a 50% hit rate boost when it reaches 300. Linear motion is a great go-to formation if you have multiples to choose from, though make sure you check what buffs new formations will grant you, as some can even give you more XP in full. A few notes about the bonus gauge and formation. Changing the formation in between battles does not reset the bonus gauge, so you could foreseeably use one formation while building it up, then changing it up when you've completely filled up the gauge. Be forewarned that the bonus gauge will reset if your currently controlled party member fails a perfect dodge, perishes during combat, or if enemies sneak up on you prior to battle. Another feature new to the second story R is the Assault action, which is a powerful new feature that gives you more firepower and options. Over time, you'll either procure characters from other Star Ocean games as well as reserve party members. Assault actions allow you to call upon them provided that their cooldown timer is up. And if you choose to assign reserved party members, you can also indicate which abilities they'll use once they've summoned. The first assault action you'll get, Leticia, is a powerful one to have early on, and can be utilized in similar situations as Reina's Crumble, i.e. when enemies are huddling around a target. All that said, just because it's called Assault action doesn't mean that you can't use this to buff or heal allies. In fact, I highly recommend it, as Assault actions do not spend MP at all. Time is your only currency. So having a party of high damage dealing characters with 2 healers ready to cast heals for their assault actions is a viable party composition. Lastly, I want to talk about how melee attacks, targeting, and items work. Whenever items are used, a cooldown timer appears, letting you know that you won't be able to use items until this expires. Simple enough. Melee attacks, on the other hand, function similarly to Tales games, in that pressing the attack button will have your character running towards their target to smack them with their offensive. Unlike the original game, this behavior cannot be altered to manual or auto controls. That said, changing targets is as simple as running towards them, and the second story R does have the ability to lock onto your current target by clicking in the right stick. And that's Star Ocean the second story R's combat, at least enough to get you through and understand a lot of what's happening. If you have any additional questions, please don't hesitate to post your question in the comments below. And if you're a Star Ocean the second story veteran, post your tips and tricks in the comments as well. Your enjoyment of the game is important to me, and if there's anything I can help clear up, I'll most likely try to answer your questions in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.